The following is a semi-fictional account, inspired by a process amongst 9 tribes of the Lake Kainji and Jebba Basins, Nigeria. A few fishing boats sat still and silent in the soft pre-dawn light of Lake Kainji. The fishermen on the boats knew the fish populations were plentiful. How many fish would bite that morning was an entirely different concern. That peaceful knowing that comes with good stewardship was a recent and welcome change. Many decades before, trust between the 9 tribes around the lake had dissolved. Suspicion had taken root. Fishermen, fearing others were taking too much, began overfishing themselves. No one knew the lake's true state anymore. Scarcity had become a story that everyone believed. As the fish dwindled, desperation grew. Some turned to homemade dynamite just to bring up the last scraps. The lake was being stripped bare. To some, this was just another example of what's called the tragedy of the commons. The idea that when people share a resource, they inevitably overuse it until it's gone. But that story is incomplete. Because the real tragedy doesn't start with the commons, or in our story, the lake. It starts with people. When trust breaks down, when fear replaces cooperation, that's when things unravel. At Lake Kainji, a few people sensed this deeper truth. One of them was named Godfrey. Godfrey felt the root of the lake's suffering was in the hardened silence between the tribes. He felt openness and conversation would be the remedy. He gathered people on tribal mats. Suspicion dissolved as food was shared. And what had long been missing began to happen: conversation. He asked questions, and together they broke down their assumptions. Slowly, light returned. People began to see the bigger picture, that the lake needed them and they needed each other. This story echoes something a wise researcher, Elinor Ostrom, made clear: that communities can manage shared resources, that there are abundant examples throughout history and even in the present day. But when communities do so effectively, there are certain principles that are present. And here are those principles, seen through our semi-fictional story at Lake Kainji, using the terminology of an organization that is working to carry Elinor Ostrom's work forward, ProSocial World. The first of those principles is shared identity and purpose. In our story, the people remembered who they were. They weren't just 9 tribes, but people who share a lake together. That everyone wanted their children to be able to eat tomorrow was clear. So their purpose and their identity was deeply shared. The second principle is equitable distribution of contributions and benefits. They began by listening, really listening to each other's stories. Who was fishing, how much, and how were they doing it? And they didn't rush to judge. They sought to learn how to care for the lake together, and for there to be enough fish for everyone. Not just for today, but for tomorrow too. The third principle, fair and inclusive decision making. Rules weren't handed down, they formed them together. Every voice was heard and mattered. Even when there was disagreement, everyone remained present, knowing that shared decisions require shared presence. The fourth principle, transparent monitoring of agreed behaviors. They all watched each other together, not to police, but to guide one another in stewardship. The fifth principle, graduated feedback for helpful and unhelpful behavior. When someone broke an agreed upon behavior, the first response was conversation and compassion. We all make mistakes. But real accountability was not lost. It can't be. There's a strictness that's required for what the lake and all 9 tribes need to flourish. Helpful behavior is praised, unhelpful behavior is made clear. The sixth principle, fast and fair conflict resolution. Again, we all make mistakes. We're human. Courage and space to name conflict early must be prioritized. Fast restoration is essential for social harmony. The seventh principle, authority to self-govern. They didn't need outsiders to show them the way. They reclaimed their agency as stewards of their shared commons on those tribal mats. What they needed was the freedom to follow their own intuition and vision. for the way forward to arise from within. Finally, the 8th principle is collaborative relationships with other groups. This is a recognition that no community or commons exists in isolation. These same principles must be present with neighboring villages and tribes, external aid programs, and regional leaders. So this is a story not just of a resource recovered, but relationships restored. And there's vitally important wisdom to reflect on to end. Coming home to good stewardship requires a certain leap of faith that takes us from individual scarcity to collective abundance. Anywhere we see relationship to a degraded community and resource restored, we should praise all the individuals involved because they found it in themselves to give when they didn't even have. So for today's participatory story prompt, let's think of a commons that we're a part of. Think of a commons you're a part of, a shared garden, a neighborhood, a watershed, even a digital space. And please share a time something broke down and what helped repair it, or share a dream you have for your commons and how it could be tended more beautifully. Please share your response, your story in the comments or on your Facebook or Instagram profile page. And if you do so there, don't forget to mention Awakening Lands.